Hello, everybody. Well, despite the fact that I've had a terrible run of luck for the last couple of months, and I wasn't able to travel for any birding, I couldn't go to any, birding meccas like High Island, which I had planned to do, I still had a great season. I got a lot more birds than I expected, added those to my list, but more important than that, I have had so much time to spend, or I've spent so much time filming, photographing, and just observing the birds. And that's one thing about me is I'm not just somebody who just wants to see a bird and put it on a list. I'm going to observe that bird and, make notes about what I've seen, things like that. And I've had good luck as far as birds go locally. I even had some fallout at my residence. Well, a version of fallout, but it was awesome. For those who don't know, fallout is where inclement weather or north winds force migrating birds to cease flying and find a place to land. Fallout is quite dramatic when the birds fly over the ocean, but when they are already over land, it just kind of forces them to remain local and search for food. Since my last Big Year update, of which I left off on April 19th, I've seen a fair amount of new birds and discovered yet more issues with the Sound ID feature on the Merlin app. And don't get me wrong, I know that the Merlin app is a fantastic tool for birding, but it's good to learn and understand its limitations and flaws. But more on that later. Additionally, let me just say that my big year is just a personal challenge to get as many birds as possible, but the challenge is to beat what is on my life list, which is, I'd have to look again, I think it's about 354. And, after this, I've still got a ways to go, especially since I didn't go to the coast or anything, but if I'm able to travel, I should be able to add quite a few birds, and we'll see how close I can get, and hopefully get over that threshold. Also, let me say, I'll be putting out a lot of videos this summer concerning birds only, kind of an everything you need to know. Just whatever birds I have footage of, photographs of, I can give you the information. Certainly I don't want to sit there and talk about a bird while I have one or two photos to show. That wouldn't be very good, so I need to get more footage, more photos, things like that. And but stay tuned, and I'll be putting out bird videos throughout the summer. On April 22nd, I made a trip to a suburban park for some morning birding. And while I was happy with the amount of birds I observed, I did not see any rarities that day. But I did add quite a few birds to the Big Year list. As soon as I left my vehicle, the first year bird I identified was the northern parula. Some people say parula, others say parula, to each their own. While the parula was just one of several warblers I heard and saw that day, most of which were already on the list, a Louisiana water thrush made his presence known, as these birds always do. In my opinion, no other warbler makes its voice heard like the Louisiana water thrush. Its song echoes through the woodlands like no other bird its size. And while I was down near a small creek, a common yellow-throat male made himself visible, but only a little bit. I had to shoot through a small opening in quite a bit of vegetation, but I think it worked out. Also, I heard then saw a first-of-season orchard oriole. Because they're more of a burnt orange, rusty color, they probably don't get all the accolades of their cousin, the Baltimore oriole. But their song is quite rich as well. I finished out the morning with a white-eyed vireo, a house wren, and a flyover by a green heron. On Tuesday, April 23rd, I woke up early and ventured outside to see the full moon. While out, I heard the calls of a Chuck Will's widow, first of season. And I'll gladly accept hearing them for confirmation, as I've only seen one Chuck Will's widow in my life, and that was almost 30 years ago. This nocturnal nightjar breeds in the eastern United States and spends the winter in warmer climates, from South Texas and Florida, through eastern Mexico and the Caribbean down to far northern South America. After the sun came up, I visited a local park and added a Buick's wren and a great egret. At home later that day, I saw a chipping sparrow then my first of season ruby-throated hummingbird. On Wednesday, April 24th, I heard the whistling song, then saw a first-of-year male summer tanager in the trees outside my home. This is an immature male, which remain yellow for pretty much their first year of life, and this guy is just now starting to get his red coloring. He'll spend the rest of the summer as a mixture of yellow and red, but will probably be fully red by the time he flies south again. Also that day, I heard then saw my first of season painted bunting. Love everything about those birds. Their beautiful colors, their songs, all that. And speaking of beautiful songs, also that morning, I added a blue-headed vireo after hearing it in an oak tree a little ways down from my house. The blue-headed vireo may be my favorite vireo. I think its sweet whistling song is what makes it my favorite. The Cornell Lab of Ornithology describes it as querulous, saying it's rendered as ta, tia, toito, ta toye, tuip, or hear me, see me, here I am. I just know I love hearing it, which, where I live, only occurs during the last 2 weeks of April, as the bird migrates to its northerly breeding range. And I say favorite, but really, I love all vireos. Warblers probably get all the accolades, but each vireo species is quite interesting in its own right. Blue-headed, white-eyed, red-eyed, black-capped, warbling, yellow-throated, bells, and all the others. On April 27th, we had a tornado outbreak, which included heavy rains and all the other effects that come with severe weather. The next morning, Sunday, April 28th, after the severe weather had moved out, the trees were alive with neotropical songbirds. And it wasn't just one day either. Sadly, we had severe weather pretty much every night, which resulted in great birding every morning during that 10-day span. Beginning that morning, and for a week after, there were several rose-breasted grosbeaks in the trees around my home. This was a first for me. They're pretty rare here, passing through only in late April and early May. Additionally, while I did see them, both males and females, I never got close enough for any good photos or video. It's funny, I'd previously only encountered these birds at High Island, Texas, where they will land and feed quite close to people, but at my house, they remained high in the tree canopies. However, I did see them well enough to know that there were both males and females. On Monday, April 29th, I saw my first of season Mississippi kite, which is a resident where I live. Then, the following day, I saw a least flycatcher, another migrant that just passes through. I do enjoy observing them, even though they're only around for a week or so. On May 1st, I heard and saw an American redstart, a magnolia warbler, and a gray catbird. Thursday, May 2nd may have been the best day of birding for me so far this year. Although the number of big ear species was low, I did get to observe quite a few species in general. After the overnight storms, I started the morning with this big ear species, a young male blue grosbeak. Males often resemble females for the first year. This individual spent the morning calling from treetops and searching for food, often on the ground. During the breeding season, the blue grosbeak is a common but inconspicuous resident where I live. But the biggest treat of the morning occurred in the pecan trees around my house. There were many warblers searching for sustenance among the tree branches. And with the warblers here, where I observed the birds for several hours each day, that sustenance was mostly caterpillars, but also flies, small moths, and spiders. Along with the usual yellow warblers, 2 black-throated green warblers spent the day in the pecan trees. And these birds didn't seem to mind my presence at all, and even got to within a few feet of me. And while they weren't opposed to feeding in the canopies of oaks and hickory trees, these warblers just favored the pecan trees, and I'm pretty sure I know why. While most oak trees produced flowers, called catkins, during the month of April, pecan trees, as of the publishing of this video, are currently loaded with catkins. And those hanging catkin bunches make excellent hiding places for caterpillars, other insects, and small spiders. However, warblers are quite good at finding hiding creatures. The black-throated greens, both males, were calling quite a bit, but the Merlin app sound ID feature wouldn't pick them up at all, even though I was within a few feet. It certainly picked up the yellow warblers, and even occasionally confused them with American redstarts. On another morning while I was out, a brown thrasher was singing up a storm, and several of the birds that it was mimicking showed up on Merlin as those birds. Additionally, I heard a mockingbird, and several of the birds it was mocking showed up on Merlin as well. It made the sounds of a killdeer, which showed up on Merlin. It made the sounds of a scissortail flycatcher, which showed up on Merlin. So just be aware that those birds can make those sounds. But that morning, watching the black-throated green warblers along with the yellow warblers all over the pecan tree was just really special. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe if you haven't already.
Oh, hello. I'm Randy from Randy's Natural World. I hope you enjoyed the video on... Yes, that's it. Today I'm pretending to be a scientist. Maybe I'm doing research on a 5 o'clock shadow, I'm not sure. But that's neither here nor there. I'm hoping to speak to those of you who haven't subscribed yet. Here's a list of reasons why you should. It's free. You can't beat that price. Number 2, quality content. Always quality content. Number 3, YouTube allows unlimited subscriptions, so there's no reason not to. Anyway, number 4, are you a procrastinator? There's no need to procrastinate. And I know what you're thinking, Randy, I'll subscribe when I get around to it. Well, here's your round to it right here. Round to it. So go ahead and subscribe. Go ahead. A wise decision.